Hi everybody, Sandra Vale here at Homesteading Ways, and today I'm planning out my garden. And for me that means I'm coming outside. We moved here in late summer last year, and so we didn't garden at all. But I did pay attention to how the sun hit all over the property. That's mainly because we're surrounded by a lot of trees. And so I knew gardening was going to be a challenge because of the lack of sunlight. But there are areas where things can grow in full sun. I just have to be really careful about it. And, no two gardens are alike. You may plant the same kinds of things, but they're always set up a little bit differently. And so today I'm going to go through a little bit of that. For instance, behind me is a big trumpet vine. Now it's pretty, it has beautiful flowers, and it does attract hummingbirds. However, it's taking up some primo sunlight space. So it's coming out. And that's just one of the things that's going to be removed. That right there is maiden grass. I'm not really sure why it's sitting in the middle of the yard. It is kind of a pretty grass, so maybe it's more of a specimen piece, but it's taking up some primo sunlight, so I will be moving it. We'll probably dig it up and maybe plant it elsewhere. Otherwise, we're going to give it away. I plan on having my major bed right around this area. It's going to be a long, narrow bed as opposed to wide because of the location. This is more of a north-facing area. But when I come out here and look around and walk it out, I get a better idea of how much space I have to work with. So I'm really glad I took the time to come out here today. Under this mound of snow here is a pond. It's kind of unfortunate because this is where the most sun hits for the longest amount of the day. It's all west facing. But all is not lost because I can plant around the pond and a few other areas near it. For instance, if I turn this way, all over here is west facing, and I will have plenty of room to plant what I need. This little south-facing bed here has garlic in it right now. So I may plant just a few smaller things to grow in between the garlic, or I may not at all. But it does need to be fenced up a little bit more because this is the area where the dogs tend to be around the most. Okay, part 2 of how I'm planting my garden. I always start off with my notebook. I've been using a notebook for years, and it's just the simplest, easiest way for me to remember things. Last year, I didn't garden because we came here so late, but I did make sure to look around to see where the sun was, how long it sat in each area, and how many hours I could count on for each area. And so I wrote out little diagrams. You can maybe see this, I don't know. These are where I plan on doing different beds. Over on the side where the pond is, most of it gets 8 or more hours of sun. But then there's a bed out in front I want to do where only part of it gets 8 hours and the rest is probably more around 6, possibly 7, but probably closer to 6. So where I get the most sunlight in that bed, I'm going to be putting my tomatoes, my peppers, and my beans. And then where I get a little bit less or more shade is where I'm going to be putting cabbage and Brussels sprouts and parsley and stuff like that. So for me, it really helps to write this stuff down. I can refer back to it over and over again, but for some reason just writing it down keeps it in my head better. And then sometimes I'll write down my seed germination from year to year because I'll often forget how long it took me, and sometimes I think I have dud seed when in reality I don't. I can just look back to see that, yeah, that particular seed took over 2 weeks to germinate. And then I write down stuff like what I don't want to plant, what I probably planted in the past and it didn't work out good for me, or maybe it's just something that's going to take a really long time or special care or something, and then I'll write down plants I'd rather buy instead. Like, I prefer to buy plants of lavender than trying to grow it from seed because it's a little daunting to do lavender from seed. I mean, if you got the time or the patience or you just want to do it, go right ahead and do it, you know. But I prefer to buy that. I put down some chores here that I need to get done, like adding that little bit of fencing over by the garlic. So not only the dogs, keeping the dogs out of there, but also the chickens, because once they get back to free range, and I know they're going to head right over there because they did last year. And last year I didn't mind because I didn't have anything planted, but now I do, and I want to keep them out. And then I also have in here written some of the first things I'm going to plant outside. And I'm kind of picky about the dates because time often gets away from me, and if I don't have it written down, like exactly when I want to get it done, it won't get done, or it'll get done late. So I like to write a lot of things down, if at all possible. But now with the internet, there's a lot of great stuff out there that can help you, especially when it comes to gardening. And I found more than a few websites, but there's 3 in particular I want to share with you because they just have fabulous information. And I'm going to put all of the links down there in the description, so make sure you check it so that you can get onto these websites too. Now, one of the first ones is, I just love this chart. It helps me out so much. And it's from Organic Gardening, I believe. But check the links and I'll have it in there. And this is a little printable you can do, your seed starting plan. So that's kind of what it looks like, printed up just in black and white. And on here it has different names of different crops. And then you write in your own date, when to start inside. And then it goes these different weeks. Well, actually up here, start up here, the spring frost free date in my garden is. So fill in your date, like when your last frost date is supposed to be for your hardiness zone. And then the weeks from sowing, they have all different numbers. That's about when they're good enough to plant them outside. They should be at the right stage. And then it says safe time to set outside relative to the frost free date. Like for instance, cauliflower, you can set that out 2 weeks before your last frost date. But eggplants, it's got to be 2 to 3 weeks after. So it's really helpful. And then you fill in your own date of when you want to set them out, or perhaps when you did. It's up to you. You do your chart however it makes sense best to you. But it's a wonderful chart to have, and it covers so many different vegetables and fruits, and some of them have this little asterisk there, and that means that they're usually planted directly in the ground. You wouldn't start them indoors, but they can be started indoors if that's what you need to do, especially if you have a shorter growing season. And then we'll move on to this one. This is from Plant and Plate website, and it's all on square foot gardening, and they have a wealth of information for that. And square foot gardening is just awesome if you're especially short on space. You will get the most bang for your buck from gardening by doing square footing. And it'll also help to keep weeds down. It'll help to keep your plants from drying out. You know, when you tend to space plants a little bit closer, kind of like in intensive gardening, you tend to not want to do it sometimes because you're afraid of air circulation in that. But if you choose certain plants and plant them just exactly the way they need to be done, you can get a lot of food out of a very small amount of area and without too much work too. So I really encourage you to go to this website and other websites as well, or books, you know, and look into square foot gardening if you haven't already. It's a really great method to try. And there's a lot of great printables, and it can really help you out. It tells you like how many plants will fit per square foot depending on what variety it is. You know, you can maybe do a whole bunch of carrots, or maybe only a couple of eggplants. But it gives you all that information so that you can plan your garden fairly easy. And then one of the last ones, this is a favorite of mine too, gardeners.com. This planning app, or if that's what you call it, but they let you plan out your garden perfectly. You can drop or add all these vegetables, you can take them out, you can grid out your garden or your beds however you want and figure out, like, here's one of my beds, And that's one of the beds I told you where there's only a certain area that gets a lot of sun. Well, that's exactly where the tomatoes, the peppers, and the beans are going. And then where it's a little bit more shady, here's my cabbage, my Brussels sprouts, here's my cabbage, here's my parsley. That is a fabulous site, and you can print out so much stuff. You can save it if you don't want to print it out. You can go back and edit it and change it. You can do whatever you want on that site. So remember, I'm going to put all these links in the description. Make sure to check it. And hopefully you'll have a great garden this year. Hopefully, you know, Mother Earth or Mother Nature will help you out and give you just the right amount of rain, a whole lot of sunshine, and just a perfect season. And if she doesn't, hopefully you can work with that too. Thanks for watching the video. I appreciate you taking the time to do that. It was nice talking to you, and you take care.